Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joy at Work. It's June the 12th, 2020, and it's good to have you again. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe as well if you find this content interesting. So my last video got a lot of feedback, a lot of response. Of course, as I thought, there were some people who weren't happy with what I said, and that's okay, right? That's expected. We in a time like this, you can't expect that everything someone says or does is going to be accepted or well received. Uh, but even with a number, it wasn't a large number, a few folks who might have felt one way or the other about what I said. The response has been overwhelmingly positive, and so just thank you to everybody who's reached out, called, sent an email, whatever. I just thank you all. That's reassuring, and it reinforces the need to talk and speak about these subjects. Someone sent me some feedback this week, which I thought was extremely powerful, and she basically took a quote from the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and it basically says, in the end, we will really forget the words of our enemies, but we will not forget the silence of our friends. And I was really struck by that because at this time where people would claim to be somebody's friend or be in their corner or have their back, it does raise an interesting question. Even if you fundamentally disagree, have you checked in to say how you doing? This might be difficult. I want to hear your thoughts. So silence says a lot. It says more than we might think. And I accept that sometimes we don't know what to say, but like I said in the last video, just reach out and ask how you're doing. That makes a difference. Checking on that person. Silence says a lot. Whether we like it or not, silence really says where we are and where we stand on these things. So if you haven't reached out to somebody potentially, um, and you believe they're your friend or you've tried to present them as your friend, think about it. That's all I'm going to say on that. Um, so one of the things I've gotten feedback on again is around this idea of how do I what can I do different or how do I operate going forward or even how do I change my mindset and the way I view things. And I'm reminded of the quote by Richard Pascal and Ann Miller that says, we are more likely to act our way into new thinking than to think our way into new acting. What does that really mean? For many of us, probably not everybody, but for many of us, it's probably more likely that in engaging in new behaviors, we change the way we view things. Some people can do a great job of reading something, seeing it as a call to action, and immediately changing their mindset and doing something different. But in my experience, we are so attached to the way we see the world, to what we would describe as our core values or the things that matter most to us. We all are. Everybody is. And so for many of us, like just changing what we believe is sort of like giving up identity and who we are. And I could talk for a long time on who are we really identity. There's a whole kind of there's a rich wealth of information about our identities and who we are largely constructed by us. And because they're largely constructed by us, we should be able to deconstruct them as the case might be. But that's a talk for another day. In this particular video, I just really want to focus on the notion that if you do want to make some changes, probably a great way to go about it is thinking about what practices or behaviors I can begin. And especially in this time with social unrest and you're not sure of what to do, right? It's not about taking on a large challenge or doing something radically different. It's really just about small things. And clearly, we're in a time of social unrest, but this applies to practically almost every context that you find yourself in. If you want to make some changes, if you want to be able to view the world differently, it starts potentially with accepting and practicing new behaviors, new small behaviors that get you down that path. Herminia Ibarra in her book, Think Like a Leader, Act Like a Leader, I think I got it right, really builds upon this notion that becoming a leader is more about what you do versus maybe even what you know. And so she challenges aspiring leaders and established leaders to be comfortable with engaging in behaviors that maybe aren't comfortable or challenge their core as they move along. But this is not a leadership talk, but the concept is applicable in almost every walk of life, right? It's about taking steps even when you might not be fully convinced or fully sure of the thing that you're trying to do. It's having the humility, if you will, to say, well, I'm going to try new behaviors. I'm going to see what comes out of them. As I thought about this morning, I kind of thought about my piano, learning to play a new piece, and kind of what the experience is often like for me. Right? You pick up a new piece, you've never played it before, you want to learn it, mastery, right? And the way you begin to learn the piece is not by waltzing through the entire thing and being done. Well, I guess if you are really special and talented, that's the case. But for regular piano players like me, it's really more of a process of, picking a measure or two and then committing to working through it. And then when you get comfortable with that, then you go on to the next measure, right? And what happens is as you begin to get confidence and become more comfortable as you're playing, your fingers become more comfortable with certain movements and certain transitions, and things that were difficult a week ago all of a sudden seem very easy. And what's ironic is when I'm ending up playing these complicated pieces, I almost often forget like the journey. Like I'm playing it as if I'd never went through a journey. It almost seems like I went from not being able to play it to playing it. But the journey is often painful, it's often frustrating, but then you get to a point when that piece now becomes part of my repertoire and I can play it if you were just to wake me up from sleep. And that's how I think it is with, the way we, to a certain degree, the way we adopt new mental models and new thinking patterns. It's through these little acts, these new behaviors that we do. The more we do them, they reinforce the way we see the world, the way we look at the world, and the way we interact. And so, if you really want to think different or potentially think different, yes, you can read a lot of books, you can do a lot of things, you can watch this video, but it really comes down to, at the end of the day, in my view, for most of us, doing something different, acting differently. And so that's where the rubber meets the road, acting differently. Want to think different, act different. All right. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate having you all. Keep sending in your thoughts, your feedback. Have a great day. Bye.